Well, last night on the channel, we tried something a little different. In celebration of the fact that Jussie Smollett got convicted on 5 out of 6 charges in his ridiculous hate crime hoax thing, we tuned in to Joy Reid live on MSNBC because I wanted to see the whining. I wanted us all to enjoy Joy Reid together. You can watch the reaction stream, it is on this channel. But a funny thing happened last night on MSNBC. MSNBC didn't even cover the verdict. They didn't say it. They didn't say anything at all. They talked about Trump the entire time. There was reporting on Trump being denied a legal challenge. There was reporting on January 6th, of course, because it's not like it's December. It's not like it's been literally almost 1 year. It's not like there was no breaking news whatsoever around January 6th. MSNBC decided to completely ignore the Jussie Smollett verdict. They didn't completely ignore it. Ari Melber reported on it in the 6 o'clock hour when it came out, but Joy Reid was silent. She didn't say anything. And so I rolled the stream right into Chris Hayes, thinking, Chris, surely a journalist with the integrity of Chris Hayes would report the breaking news that Jussie Smollett was found guilty on 5 out of 6 charges. And Chris Hayes started reporting on Trump. MSNBC is obsessed with Trump. We watched with bated breath, waiting for them to make some sort of statement about the fact that Jussie Smollett faked his own hate crime. And it never came. But what we did find out is we kind of like watching Joy Reid together. So one of the things, the benefits of this whole exercise was, maybe I'll just do more Joy Reid reaction streams. Maybe we can, on a regular basis, watch Joy Reid together and laugh at how ridiculous she is. If you would like to make that a reality, please leave a comment and let me know. But MSNBC did finally get their talking points together, and they released an article that we're going to read and react to live. Well, not live. This is taped. I'm going to react to it. You're going to watch. Jussie Smollett being found guilty of hoax will hurt LGBTQ folks reporting hate crimes. Well, before I even read this article, I have to say that Jussie Smollett himself, through sheer virtue of faking his own hate crime, is actually probably the person responsible for it being harder for LGBTQ folks to report hate crimes. No one forced him to fake his own hate crime. That was his choice. Actions have consequences. But we're going to take a look at what MSNBC's take on this is. We're going to read this together. But before we get into that, guys, I do content almost every single day of the week around news, politics, culture, really focusing in on how BS the media is and social justice and fighting back against the woke nonsense in your life. If you would like to support the work I do, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please make sure you mount that like button for this video. Turn on notifications, share it out with your friends if you're so inclined. But also, please make sure you join me in my Locals community. Now, Locals is the best place on the internet, I think. I really do. Rumble hasn't screwed it up yet. I promise. Locals is still great. Locals is operating completely separately from Rumble, is my understanding. They haven't changed a thing. It's just as awesome as it always was. You can join my community for free. You don't have to pay. You can join for free at kb.locals.com. It's also across the bottom in the ticker. But if you do want to support the work I do rely on my Locals supporters to be able to keep doing this. And it's just the reality of the situation, man. It is just the reality. Now, I would like to bring in 100 new local supporters by the end of the year. What do you get when you're a local supporter? You get all the features of Locals. You get everything unlocked. You get 2 Zoom calls a week, and actually possibly more, because I'm going to be adding more in the new year. I spend about 6 hours every single week on Zoom with my Locals. It's like a support group. It's a place where we can vent and talk about what's going on with the news in a way that we won't be censored or judged. You get book club. You get my access to my supporter Discord. I do have a Discord, but it's only for people that have some skin in the game. Being a supporter on Locals starts at $5 a month. You can give more if you want to, but you are under no obligation. You can also do $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. Every bit of support is greatly appreciated. I love my locals community. They are the absolute best. I may not have the biggest community on locals, but I do have the best community on locals. And I genuinely hope that you will be joining us very, very soon. All right, let's take a look at this article from MSNBC. Jussie Smollett being found guilty of hoax will hurt LGBTQ folks reporting hate crimes. Jussie Smollett guilty verdict will be used by Trump supporters to prove Democrats wrongly label them as villains. That's what happens when you fake a hate crime, dude. That's what happens. This is from Zach Strafford. Because, of course, MSNBC's banner people, Joy Reid, Chris Hayes, I don't know what Rachel Maddow did. I didn't get that far. They can't be expected to give an opinion on this verdict or even mention it at all, even though they're supposed to be covering the news. But MSC's random opinion columnists can sure comment on it. The Jussie Smollett saga may now be technically over after a Chicago jury found the actor guilty Thursday of 5 of 6 counts he faced. But its impact will be, and has already been, felt for years to come. It doesn't matter if the actor who starred in Empire really was beaten up by people yelling, "This is MAGA country." Isn't that funny? It doesn't matter if he faked his own hate crime. It doesn't matter. And is wrongly being punished, or if he did stage an elaborate hoax, as the jury decided he did by finding him guilty of 5 out of 6 counts of disorderly conduct. Instead, the seemingly never-ending questions over the almost 3 years regarding the truthfulness of this account means the indisputable victims of hate crimes will now carry a heavier burden of suspicion. That's what happens when you have a whole bunch of people using things like this for their own political game. Every single person on the left made a statement supporting Jussie Smollett. Joe Biden made a statement. Kamala Harris made a statement. All sorts of Hollywood actors made a statement. Everyone on MSNBC was crying for weeks. You all made it harder for people who are actual victims of hate crimes because you all decided to play political games with the news. You didn't wait for the facts to come out. You didn't take a measured approach to it. You didn't do anything like that. You guys who supported him to begin with without waiting for the facts to come out are the people who have made it harder for victims of hate crimes, legitimate hate crimes, which do happen. The only winners found as the dust settles are the members of the right, who have declared themselves America's real victims of hate and discrimination, people who have strategically made the Smollett case their go-to example of how the left operates and how it wrongfully makes villains of Donald Trump supporters. Now, I will say this. I do worry that the right does say that everything is fake. They do. They say there's no thing as racism. There is. Racism is a real thing. They say there's no such thing as hate crimes. There are. Hate crimes are a real thing. And I do actually kind of like, I don't agree with the article in the way that it's writing it because it's obviously, this article is a stretch. It's a stretch. Let's be honest. But I do think that the right should be more responsible about how they're communicating too. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in the same position. Listen, man, this is like when Mitch McConnell denied Merrick Garland a hearing. And I am glad that Merrick Garland's not on the Supreme Court, things as they are. However, should have gotten a hearing, should have followed the process. And then what happened when ACB came up for confirmation? The Republicans looked like massive hypocrites. They looked like massive hypocrites because they were behaving hypocritically. Overtly. You can make any excuse you want. You can say, Merrick Garland wasn't going to get confirmed. Well, fine. Then have a hearing and vote no. Follow the process. Have some integrity. Follow the process. Because when you try to do this shit, when you try to play games like this, you always end up looking bad at some point. The left is looking real bad right now because they play games with this. If the right tries to play games with this, it's going to come around to bite them. Mark my words, it always does. Meaning Smollett's guilty verdict is their new crowning jewel as the culture war rages on. Well, I think they're actually much more pleased about Kyle Rittenhouse than they are about this, but okay. When the actor said in January 2019 that 2 men wearing masks subjected him to racist and homophobic attacks near his home in Chicago, an overwhelming outcry followed. The actor initially garnered sympathy across the political spectrum, which during a common era is uncommon. Oh, so it's okay for him to stage his own hate crime because it gained sympathy for him? Is that what you're arguing, MSNBC? All right. Trump denounced the attack as horrible. Oh, wow. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that they feel the need to include that before anything else? Trump denounced the attack as horrible. Activist took to the street to march, and Somollet's story was used to introduce new anti-lynching legislation on the floor of the U.S. Senate. For many, the reported attack on Smollett, didn't Kamala Harris introduce that? Wasn't that Kamala Harris's bill? Has Kamala Harris apologized yet? No, she hasn't, and she won't because they never do. For many, the reported attack on Smollett was par for the course in an America that was already seeing a rise of violent hate crime from Charlottesville, Virginia to Chicago amid Trump's presidency. The Smollett story being attacked was seen as a call to action. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tweeted that the racist and homophobic attack on Jussie Smollett is an affront to our humanity. And then Senator Kamala Harris labeled it as a modern day lynching before the passage of her historic legislation expanding federal penalties for hate crimes. Has Nancy Pelosi or Kamala Harris apologized yet? We already know Kamala hasn't. Nancy hasn't either. Nope. The case was not seen, or excuse me, the case was seen as evidence that no one was safe under Trumpism. Not even celebrities. Oh no. Oh no. We must protect the celebrities at all costs. Oh no. But just as quickly as the story broke, it took a turn, and then another, as evidence produced by the Chicago police swayed supporters to abandon Smollett, who was charged with filing a false police report, and then those charges dropped, then charges anew, just as fast as they had rushed to support him. As the tide turned against Smollett, the right was excited that it had a smoking gun illustrating how fake the media is and how Democrats only cared about issues that would hurt the then president. There's actually nothing wrong about that paragraph. That paragraph is completely correct. Congratulations. When Smollett was first charged, Donald Trump Jr. launched an all-out social media campaign by taking over the hashtag Justice for Jussie. Josie, I don't even know how to pronounce this kid's name, and perverting it by trolling seemingly every high-profile person who had defended Smollett, from Harris to Warren. Even now, Justice for Jussie is used as a weapon against the left. Trump followed his son's lead and called Smollett's case a disgrace to our nation and an embarrassment during his impeachment inquiry, because they couldn't get through a whole article without mentioning his impeachment inquiry. Trump used the allegations against Smollett to describe how unfairly he had been treated. Then you have this case of this wise guy, Jussie Smollett, who beat up himself, Trump said in late 2019 to a group of police chiefs in Chicago, Deadline reported. And he said MAGA country did it. MAGA country. That's a hate crime. It is a scam. A real scam. Just like the impeachment of your president is a scam. Both Trump's impeachments were a scam, and I'm not sorry I said it. Especially the second one, that was bullshit. Given Trump's unchecked racism and his White House being hostile to LGBTQ people, which is not actually a fact, MSNBC, that's an opinion, it's obvious Trump had the first gay cabinet secretary in history. That was Rick Grinnell. It's not Pete Buttigieg. It was Rick Grinnell under Trump. Sorry. It's obvious why Trump loved the case against Smollett. A fake hate crime reported by a high-profile black gay celebrity was the perfect shield in a country where identity is everything. MSNBC, only people like you think that your immutable characteristics define who you are. Most of us normal people, we don't think that. We don't. I'm sorry. Just like how in the beginning of the story, Smollett was a perfect weapon to attack Trump. The case has been one I have found myself entrapped in for years. When Smollett reported being attacked, I was serving as an editor-in-chief for The Advocate, the world's largest and longest running magazine for LGBTQ people. Smollett's team had called me a few weeks before the alleged attack to pitch me on a cover for late 2020 in advance of the story on Empire, where he'd marry an HIV-positive character. So you're saying that they were just interested in media coverage. Shocking. The planned storyline was too far away from me to plan coverage, but we had created a channel of communications between us to keep the conversation going. So when news broke the morning of January 29th, 2019 that Somalet had been attacked in Chicago, a town in which I had spent years reporting on violence and police for The Guardian, we, as a magazine, were well situated and well sourced to make the alleged attack our biggest story. Oh, so really what this op-ed is, it's not MSNBC shilling the talking points, it's the advocate. It's the advocate basically saying, you can't blame us for getting it wrong. That's what this is. Okay. We couldn't help but cover the story of a black gay celebrity who said he'd been attacked by Trump supporters. We just couldn't help it. We didn't do actual journalism or look into anything or wait for the facts to come out at all. We just, can you really blame us? We had to cover it preemptively without knowing the facts, said the advocate. This wasn't just because it was a story involving a famous member of the community we covered. It's also because for many of us who have been reporting on anti LGBTQ crimes for years, we believe this case might help shine a light on the fact that LGBTQ folks, especially trans people, were dying at historic rates in the streets. Why would Jussie Smollett be a reflection of trans people? He is not trans. That has nothing to do with it. They literally just cannot even write an article about this stuff without inserting trans. And I have no problem with trans people. Live your best life, man. I don't really care. But this has nothing to do with being trans. Nothing to do with it at all. Somola claimed to have been attacked in those same streets. Since journalists began accurately reporting trans homicides in the early, they literally just made the whole article about trans people. Wow. How do these people become journalists? I just don't understand it. Since journalists began accurately reporting trans homicides in the early 2010s, we have consistently seen a rise in anti LGBTQ violence, with 2021 being the deadliest year on record for trans people. Black people in this country, regardless of their sexuality, also find themselves overrepresented in FBI data documenting hate crimes in the US each year. With this guilty verdict, it's really those people who lost, not just Somolet, with the winners being people who are now more emboldened in demanding even more from victims before receiving justice. Sure, Somolet may have lied, or at least was found guilty of it. They aren't even admitting he lied. They can't bring themselves to do it. But statistically, most people who report these cases do not lie and are rarely ever believed. So what does it say, MSNBC? What does it say then that Jussie had to be a celebrity in order for his case to be believed? Because you already argue that in this same article that we should be protecting the celebrities at all costs. What is so important for us to do in this moment as we look to what's next is to ensure work is done to stop the epidemic of hate facing folks. I'm surprised they didn't say FOLX. Folks who look similar to Smollett. Trump supporters are not being subjected to hate crimes or for supporting Trump on any level, full stop. That's untrue. That's not true. That's not true. I was literally attacked by a mob of Black Lives Matter supporters. There was a guy that was shot dead in Portland last year for being a Trump supporter. I know multiple people who have been attacked for being Trump supporters. I know multiple people who were attacked leaving the RNC convention from the White House for being Trump supporters. That's provably not true. Trump is an expert in gaslighting America, and if we continue to allow the Smollett case, no matter where one stands on it, to detract attention from everyday people impacted by hate in this country, it would be the greatest gaslight of all time and a signal of more to come. So that is MSNBC's official position on Jussie Smollett, is that the fact that he was found guilty, not the fact that he staged the hate crime in the first place. They have not denounced the fact that he staged his own hate crime. But the fact that he was found guilty is the real problem for MSNBC. Too bad. So sad. All right, guys, that's all I have for this one. Again, as a reminder, if you are so inclined to support the work I'm doing, please make sure you support my locals community, or at least join for free, kb.locals.com. But if you want to become a supporter, you can do that as well. And I look forward, if you become a supporter, I look forward to meeting you in person on one of our community Zooms. I love chatting with my local supporters. We have some of the very best conversations, and just really nuanced conversations, calm conversations. No one's yelling. No one's throwing stuff. No one's arguing. No one's calling names. We don't always agree. Actually, many times we don't. But they truly are the best. All right, guys. That's all I have for right now. I'll see you soon.